Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of Congregational Humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. I'm David Breeden, Senior Minister. Welcome. Good morning, everyone. I'm David Breeden. I'm the Senior Minister here at First Unitarian Society, joined today by our Music Director, Mike Vosich, and David Buckley, our Ministerial Intern, and welcoming our musical guests. So glad you are here today. Welcome to everyone to this place of love and justice, this place where we attempt to live up to humanity's highest ideals and highest hopes. Do we fail? Yes, we do, often. But do we try again? Yes, we do, always. Welcome to this place of love and justice, and to this gathering where the sacredness is in our gathered community. We will have our announcements later in the program today. Welcome, everyone. Take it away.
In a moment of stillness, I will let you in. In a moment of stillness, check the state I'm in. In a moment of stillness, find my voice to sing, find my voice to sing. Far away from home, so far away from home, feeling so alone, feels like I haven't grown past a small child, somebody meek and mild, find my voice to sing, to raise me up again, 'cause somebody wanted me here, and I chose to be here, so I'm gonna be here and build something new. And if I'm gonna be here, I'll have to be brave, and I'll have to know myself, and I know I am brave. sing. Find my voice to sing. Find my voice to sing.
And while Paul lights the chalice, I'll read the words of our fourth aspiration. We aspire to support one another's journey toward meaning and connection in the here and now. And if you would all please stand for our next hymn, Amazing Grace. Number 206 in the book, we want to read along.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my Savior's relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home.
Please stay standing and join me in the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this place, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated.
First Unitarian Society is a congregational humanist community, which means that we are here for each other. We're here for each other, for our neighbors, and for our planet. On Sundays when we gather, we take a few moments to reflect on the joys and the sorrows, the milestones of the human experience. We do this so that we stay in touch with our own humanity and to remind ourselves of the value of a moment of stillness. This week, we share in the outrage at the brutal attack of a transgender woman on a train station here in Minneapolis last week. We will continue to insist upon the basic human rights of all of our LGBTQ+ citizens. A celebration of life for FUS member Kayla Gunderson will be Saturday, March 11th at 10 a.m. And a celebration of the life of FUS member Ginger Wilson will be held here on Saturday, April the 15th at 10:30 a.m. That's Saturday, April 15th at 10:30 a.m. with a reception to follow. And by the way, downstairs, stop by our card basket after assembly this morning to send a note to the folks who are unable to attend assembly and to the folks we've mentioned this morning. We take a few moments now to reflect on the violence and oppression in our world and those who seek to comfort the suffering and who work for justice.
when I breathe in. I breathe in peace when I breathe out. I breathe out love when I breathe in. I breathe in peace when I breathe out. I breathe out love.
Good morning again. I want to invite the youth in the building or watching online to get extra comfortable as we start our time for all ages. This morning we have a lovely story that connects us to the ideas that we'll be exploring later in our assembly. We'll be talking about being vulnerable. That's when you're open to the possibility of being emotionally hurt or sad. Now, why would you ever want that? Well, our story shows someone who comes to understand that he actually is vulnerable, whether he wants to be or not. But he also comes to see that being vulnerable can bring new opportunities for important connections. So let's hear the story. This is The Rough Patch by Brian Lies. Evan and his dog did everything together. They played games and enjoyed sweet treats. They shared music and adventure. They were together through all the day and through all the seasons. But what they loved the most was working in Evan's magnificent garden. There, everything they planted grew as big and beautiful as the sky above them. But one day, the unthinkable happened. Evan laid his dog to rest in a corner of the garden, and nothing was the same. Evan shut himself inside. Without his best friend, the garden was a bitter and lonely place. One morning, he found himself with a hoe in his paws. Swinging angrily, he slashed the garden to the ground. He hacked it all to bits and threw everything in a heap. But a good place won't stay empty for long. New plants sprouted and stretched toward the sky. Weeds, itchy ones, spiky and prickly ones, foul-smelling ones. These weeds suited Evan just fine, so he took care of them. If Evan's garden couldn't be a happy place, then it was going to be the saddest and most desolate spot he could make it. And soon it was. When Evan found a pumpkin vine sneaking in under the fence, he raised his hoe to chop it. But then he considered its prickly stems, fuzzy leaves, and spidery, twisty tendrils. He let it be. As the pumpkin grew, Evan cleared the weeds from its path and watered it. The vine responded to his care. Around the time the evening air began to cool, Evan felt an old, familiar sense of excitement. It was Fair Week. He loaded up the pumpkin and drove to town. He took care of important fair business and gobbled down some delicious fair food. He caught up with some friends, too. It felt good to be out again, even if it wasn't quite the same. Evan's pumpkin won third place. The prize is $10 or one of the pups in that box, the judge called. I'll take the 10, said Evan. But as he claimed his prize, he heard a scrabbling sound inside the box and thought it wouldn't hurt to just look. Our friend Evan sure did hit a rough patch, didn't he? He was vulnerable to feelings of sadness, anger, and grief when he lost his best friend. That's something many of us can relate to. His reaction to withdraw, to get angry, to destroy his magnificent creation, it's not hard to understand, is it? Evan was vulnerable to these difficult feelings because he was vulnerable to loss, because he had so loved his best friend. That's the challenge of being a person, right? Knowing that there can be loss but loving anyway. And like Evan, the best recipe for dealing with loss is time, feeling your feelings, and when you're ready, being vulnerable to making new connections, especially ones of the puppy variety.
Let's sing the children out.
Oh, yes, we're going to sing the children out. That's a good idea.
Thanks so much, and thanks for joining in with our music this morning. It does old hillbilly good to hear real music.
Hear, hear.
Well, there are new phrases and words in the dictionary this year. One of them is rage farming. Rage farming. Now, rage farming is the tactic of intentionally provoking political opponents, typically posting inflammatory content on social media in order to elicit angry responses and thus high engagement or widespread exposure for the original poster. Rage farming. And here's a good example in case you need one, which if I had some time, I would do maybe a bumper sticker campaign against. Alert! Joe Biden called for Christians to be added to the terror watch list. Yes, former Vice President Joe Biden, who will never be elected president, by the way, has a message for American Christians. If you don't defect from your faith and embrace leftism, then you're going to be added to the government's terror watch list. Yes, rage farming. So I think I'm going to come up with a bumper sticker campaign right now. Farm cabbage, not rage. You can all do the music for that campaign, right? It might catch on, who knows? But yes, as Buckley said, our theme for the month of March is vulnerability. Last Sunday, I was chatting at the front door here when I asked someone, "How you doing?" And I got a fairly honest answer, I think. "I just haven't felt right." She said, "Since, I don't know, COVID, I guess." Which I think is how a lot of people are still feeling. There is a lot of vulnerability out there. I tried to make a list. I mean, there's the physical vulnerability due to COVID and for ourselves and our loved ones. There's emotional vulnerability due to isolation that occurred, financial vulnerability due to job loss and now inflation, the vulnerability of our democracy itself on January 6th, intellectual vulnerability due to the culture wars. I mean, how much rage farming can you really, stand out there? And the vulnerability of the earth itself and all of its beings. We have seen nothing if we haven't seen the effects of climate change in the last few years. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some vulnerabilities out there, but that's what I came up with pretty quickly. And it's a lot, isn't it? We're all feeling vulnerable. All of us have felt some of those things in some way, shape, or form, or we've known people who have. What, if anything, have we learned from all of that is my question for us today. What have we learned from this experience? Because, just like Top 40 radio, the hits just keep on coming, right? They just keep on coming. Well, the American physicist and philosopher Thomas Kuhn created the phrase paradigm shift. We've all heard that a few times at this point. A paradigm shift describes a situation in which basic assumptions and practices have changed. How we do something is no longer the right way to do it for some reason, a paradigm shift. For example, social media has been a paradigm shift in the way that we communicate. And rage farming, so-called, is one of the effects of that change, that paradigm shift in personal communication. And how we do Sunday assembly here in both live and online formats is a paradigm shift. It's a little disturbing for some of us that, we now have about as many people online as here, and it just doesn't feel as exciting to have people watching back and forth, but we're so glad that people are able to watch us from anywhere in the world now. So COVID did that paradigm shift, and we're still trying to figure out how to do that. And conferences, seminars, education, restaurants, everybody is facing some sort of paradigm shift now. And part of navigating a major paradigm shift is realizing what has changed irrevocably, what will never come back the way it was, because that's what we need to get over and cope with the new thing, seeing and realizing what is gone and what the possibilities are, because it's not all about loss, it's also about continuing. Paradigm shifts often include a sense of losing control. How do we do congregational life in this new paradigm? It's a question that all congregations of all types are asking. How do we do education in this new paradigm? How do we do committee meetings and book groups and conferences in the new paradigms? What paradigm shifts do our minds convince us we aren't in control? Oh my gosh, I can't deal with that one, And then how do we deal with it? Because the paradigm has shifted. It's not going to shift back. We have to feel somehow enough hope and obligation, maybe even, to keep going until we figure out how to do these paradigm shifts. Because, actually we all want to feel like we're in control, but we're not really in control anyway. So it's actually merely revealing the illusion of control, but it still doesn't make it feel any better. Now, a metaphor that I like to use when I talk about religion is decoder rings. I I'd like to think about, what does religion do? Actually, it helps our thinking. It helps us find ways to deal with some kind of reality and some kind of paradigm. And so philosophies and religions, I think, are kind of like a decoder ring. Now, at one time, toy decoder rings were very popular as surprises in things like breakfast cereals and Cracker Jacks. Obviously, the manufacturer's motivation was to get kids to beg their parents to buy that particular brand so they and all of their friends could have the same decoder ring. Now, the promise of a way cool decoder ring was the ability to encode and decode secret messages. And the ultimate goal was to exclaim, as the kid does in this photo, "It all makes sense now!" Right? Well, that's why religions are like decoder rings. It all makes sense now! Right? They promise to unlock secret knowledge about great mysteries, how things are, the cosmology of the universe. How does all of that work? Religion will explain that. Which things matter most? Ethics, right? That's how religions work. This is what matters, that doesn't matter. And so we get our decoder ring and we figure these things out. What is obvious with decoder rings is that there is one code. Right? There has to be one code in the encoding by someone with the ring, and then the message has to be decoded by someone else with the same ring, right? That's why you get 2 sales in your cereal, right? What isn't immediately clear is that someone with a Cracker Jacks decoder ring will not be able to communicate with someone who has a Rice Krispies decoder ring. That's where the problems come in. And I argue that the same is true in religions and in denominations for that matter. A Roman Catholic with a Roman Catholic decoder ring will not be able to communicate efficiently with someone who has a Unitarian Universalist decoder ring. The intentions are the same, but the information concerning the questions of how things are and which things matter are very likely to disagree with each other. And that's a problem. For information to be coherently communicated, the decoder ring that we use to encode the message has to be the same as the decoder ring that we use to decode the message. Now, sure, the concept of the decoder ring crosses these boundaries, and they all work in a similar fashion after all, right? This decoder ring works like that one, but they aren't the same. They merely look like they are kind of the same. They do work in a similar fashion. The intentions and the outcomes of all religions are similar. What does the cosmos look like? How does it work? And what matters most in the world? The ideas, the questions are similar to each other. However, the understanding of how things are and which things matter are not always similar. The paradigms are different. The paradigms of Unitarian Universalism and humanism insist that our attitudes and our intentions should comport with a commonly agreed upon objective reality. It's one of the things we believe in, an objective reality. We believe in the free market of ideas. We believe in experiment and in investigation. We agree that the changing of social and scientific paradigms requires us to reevaluate past paradigms and adapt or change our paradigms. We generally think that there are a whole lot of little T truths and not that many big T truths. That tends to be how we think. In my life, I went off to college thinking I was going to discover big T truth. Well, it's been a few years since, and I have to admit that I've found a lot of little T truths, but not all that many big T truths. Truth is mostly some good guesses that work, mostly based in the cultures where those truths reside. Cultures invent their own truths, and those truths work within those cultures. But often they don't work in other cultures. The philosopher Alfred North Whitehead wrote, "To know the truth partially is to distort the universe. To know the truth partially is to distort the universe. But Alfred North Whitehead was alive in the late 19th and early 20th centuries when many assumed that we human beings are capable of discovering capital T truth, absolute truth. Most of us don't think that anymore. So we accept that our truths concerning the cosmos will always be partial and therefore distorted. It's a paradigm shift, and it's a little hard to get accustomed to at times. Based on this fact of our liberal religious tradition, we are progressives because historically we have searched for new paradigms. We tend to say hurting GLBTQ people at train stations is wrong. Yes, that's the paradigm. We live there. How can we fix that one? What is the new paradigm? And that's why we are progressive, is because we search for those new ways of doing things. Being progressive doesn't mean that we believe in progress as some kind of inevitability. That was a 19th century and early 20th century idea too, that humanity would always improve and everything would always get better. Well, they were wrong about that. Things are far from that reality. Progress in human social incarnations is really difficult. It's really slow, and sometimes it is extremely painful. However, in our rapidly changing planetary and social lives, believing that progress can be made is, I think, an advantage for us. We believe in change, we believe things can change, and we believe things can change in a positive direction. Take, for example, a few words from the University of Chicago professor of ethics, Martha Nussbaum. Many of you know she's one of my favorite philosophers, living philosophers. She says this: new issues arise constantly. The world needs an ethical revolution, a consciousness-raising movement of truly international proportions. But this revolution is impeded by the navel gazing that is typically involved in asking, what is it to be human, right? Let's rekindle and extend our sense of wonder by asking instead, what is it to be a whale? Then let's go observe whales as best we can and read the thrilling research of scientists. End quote. Now, Dr. Nussbaum makes an excellent point here. I think perhaps we can re-see the human condition. I mean, we've been bouncing our heads against that wall for a while. What does it mean to be human, right? We can re-see the human condition by looking at other sentient beings that aren't human. What does it mean to be a whale? And we can somehow get our minds out of our own egos. We can awaken to our humanity, and maybe we can even stop prioritizing the human in the world and place the human animal into that web of planetary existence. And that's mind expanding, isn't it? What Dr. Nussbaum is describing is a religious experience, I would argue. Religion is about entering into a mental and heart space in which we open ourselves to experience of the other, right? Whether that other is another human being, loving our neighbor and our enemy and those sorts of things, or a whale. Well, you know, the idea is that nothing, that other, because nothing is actually other, right? That other is just like me, part of the wider web of existence, and therefore not exotic, not foreign, but rather a fellow sentient being in our web of existence. Love thy neighbor then can mean loving whales as well. An ethical, religious, or philosophical stance is taking responsibility for the vulnerability of all things by joining with other people and other sentient beings and the planet itself as co-creators of a positive future. That's a new paradigm for us, and it's about time we get to work on it before we lose our planet itself. Our liberal religious traditions are about encouraging the flourishing of all sentience, I would argue. And that's the place that we need to go. Yes, we call ourselves humanists, but as I always often say, actually we are everythingists, aren't we? Dr. Michael Hogue is a professor of philosophy, ethics, and philosophy at and the religion of philosophy at Meadville Lombard Theological School in Chicago. He has spoken here. I hope to get him back here one of these days. He has this to say: genuinely internalizing the meaning of vulnerability for us and the earth can discipline us to align our actions and thoughts more rigorously with our intentions. In aspiring to this alignment, we discover that we are not alone and we need one another. We cannot live intentionally apart from others. In recognizing this need for others, we discern the importance of trust, showing up, being there, and holding ourselves accountable. Now, I'm going to break that down a little bit. When we understand, genuinely feel in our bodies that our nation, the living beings on our planet, and the planet itself are vulnerable, we will take action. When we realize the danger we're in, we will take action. We will take responsibility to the best of our abilities. As we earnestly do that work, we will discover, Dr. Hogue says, we will discover others fighting the good fight too. And not only that, but we will discover the need for each other in this struggle called life. Dr. Hogue puts it simply, quote, "We cannot live intentionally apart from others," end quote. That realization awakens us to trust and to personal accountability, he says. It begins in vulnerability and builds to accountability. And that, I think, is what congregations do well. We wake up, we show up, we embrace our need for each other, and we embrace our accountability to each other. We are better in every way when we are together. After all, we've been through a lot in these recent years. Nearly everyone is a bit weary and also wary. That feeling of vulnerability, however, is a positive sign, I think. It means that we realize that none of us are alone in some remote island or citadel. It means that we have realized that we ourselves, our loved ones, our society, living things, and the planet itself are all interconnected. They're actually kind of small. And it is a web of vulnerability and mutuality. Vulnerability is a sign of life. Change is a sign that we are still alive. Now, to realize that we all have the same really swell and nifty decoder ring is also a good thing to realize. So, let's get those on our fingers. Let's communicate and let's stay open to each other despite it all.
If you are able to stand and join us, we are going to be singing one more song here with number 108 in the gray hymn book or songbook, and you can also follow along with the words here up on the screen.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far of Him that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear that music ringing. How can I keep from singing? From prison cell and dungeon bar, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Please be seated.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you. My name is Beth Godis. I'm a member of First Unitarian Society, and I'm also a member of the Stewardship Committee. I'm not going to say anything about our campaign today. All I'm going to do is some words from John Wesley. Do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can. And then I'm going to read the traditional announcement about the offering. So, First Unitarian Society exists because of the generosity of members and friends in time and talent and treasure. The congregation is independently funded and democratically governed. David's actually given us some really interesting things to think about today relative to that. I appreciate that. And we need your help to keep First Unitarian Society healthy. The easiest way is to go to our website, firstunitarian.org, and click on the Give app in the upper right-hand corner. Oh, thank you, there's the screen. You can also give on PayPal, the Vanco mobile app, and by sending us a check. Or, for those of you who are actually in the building today, you can stop by the office. Thank you for making the work of First Unitarian Society possible, all of you.
Yeah, no, see, people in the north don't know how to diphthong eyes. I figured that's how, yeah, see, Martha knows, yeah, see, that's why the rhythm was a little off, because in the south we just add more syllables just without even thinking about it, right? But, but yeah, we have a lot more time down there because it's hot. I do want to thank everybody who showed up and contributed to our cabaret last night, especially Cindy Bacata, who did almost all the work. Also, Paul Redasso, but Cindy did the yeoman share, and thanks so much for doing that, Cindy. It was a great, good time. What? Oh, and Paul, yeah, but yeah, well, yeah. See, yeah. All right, yep. But no, you both did a great job, and thanks so much for doing some of that kind of thing, so we can get together and sing and laugh and have a good time. If you're in the building today, don't forget to head downstairs. Today we have Mexican lasagna or Indian Navatan korma on basmati rice for vegans, and also for dessert we have oatmeal caramel cake. So join us downstairs for coffee conversation and some good victuals. Also downstairs, Active Voices. Find out what our Active Voices folks are doing. Also, if you're new to FUS, stop by our welcome table and get some more information about that. The annual auction is coming up on Saturday, April the 22nd. We need your donations. See Barb Lutz downstairs for auction donation forms and to discuss your donations to the auction. She will be downstairs after assembly today to answer all your questions about our live auction coming up Saturday, April the 22nd at 6:30. It is always a good time. Don't miss that. At noon today, Talk of the Talk in the Dietrich Room. I will be in the Dietrich Room to discuss any ideas that today's thing brought up to you, or whatever else happens to be on your mind. That's at noon today. Tomorrow night, as the first Monday of the month, March the 6th, at 6 p.m., Questions in Humanism. That is on Zoom. Join me at 6 p.m., 6 to 7, to discuss some questions about humanism. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be talking about the idea of a natural God. Some of you went to the discussion of Dietrich's talk from back in 1919 last week. Thanks a lot, Phil and Archives Committee, for digging that one up. And at that time, he was talking about what does it really mean to be a humanist? Do you have to be an atheist? What does atheism even mean? Does it just mean that you don't believe in the God that everybody else says has to exist? Blah, 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 blah. And we're going to talk a little more about that, because the history of how God went from a white guy in the sky to the earth itself in the last 150 years or so is an interesting story. And I do want to be talking about that tonight, and so join us. And again, thank you all for being here today.
No, I'm too slow.
We're just so excited to play.
Right after this, please join me in the words, all of you, for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. All of these we carry in our hearts and in our minds until we are together again.
Now, take it away. All right.
We're actually not going to take it away because we got to tune a little bit. Sorry, everybody.
We were so ready and so wrong. Well, thank you so much for having us, and thanks for inviting us here, Mike. We've had so much fun, and thanks for having us in your exploration of vulnerability. Also, music is really vulnerable, and being able to sing for you all feels very vulnerable for me, so I appreciate you having us here. We're Helen and Mikey. Thank you. Been a long time traveling way below. Been a long time traveling far from my home. Been a long time traveling way below to lay this body down. Been a long time traveling way below. Been a long time traveling far from my home. Been a long time traveling way below to lay this body down. Been a long time traveling way below. Been a long time traveling far from my home. Been a long time traveling way below to lay this body down. Been a long time traveling way
into the world, be fearless, ask questions, hold on to what's good, strengthen the weak, comfort the fearful, serve the suffering. Do what makes you come alive, because as the great Howard Thurman said, the world needs more people who have come alive. Rejoice in the power of the human spirit, so may it be.
Tea is steeping for an hour. It's gonna be so bitter.
Oh, thank you so much.
I kept thinking, well, there's another duo. You may even know them. They're okay.